All right, good morning, everybody. We are slowly getting all connected. And I got to turn the audio off on that because I'm monitoring my audio, which I don't need. Let's go over here. That's only going to bother me. Okay, sweet. So status good. Okay, sweet. So here we are. Everybody's live. We're doing this a little bit different today. I'm excited about the way that we're doing this. You can see I've got some sweet little logo action going on. We're also going to do a little bit of screen share today, which is exciting. I also have successfully made it. I've made it work to where I am streaming to all the platforms. I got YouTube. We got Periscope. Periscope I finally figured out, which I'm really excited about. Today is we're running a little bit earlier than normal because why not? But I had some things that I wanted to get through to talk about today, so I'm just going to kind of power through them and talk. What I'm going to do today, though, that's going to be a little bit different, is I'm actually going to share my screen with you, so I can walk you through and kind of show you some of the pieces of some of the stuff that I'm talking about. Now, one thing that I will say is that the video stream and the audio that you're seeing is going to be about 2 or 3 seconds behind the scene switching. So I'm going to say I'm clicking to switch the scene now, but you're not going to see me. You're not going to hear me say I'm switching to click the scene now until a couple of seconds later. But we're going to have fun with it, so it's going to be fine. Anyway, so this is I just figured I would show you this whole pocket list thing and what we're talking about here today. A couple of things that I wanted to just hit on off the bat that I think are kind of fun. If you haven't seen the show The Highwaymen, it's a great show. It's very, very well done. I would definitely check that out. But there was one thing about it that I wanted to talk about, which was I didn't realize that the term Judas Priest was an expletive before the band. So the guy says Judas Priest in the show, and I thought, is he referring to the band? Because the band is from like the 70s, and this movie is supposed to be set in like the 40s. But no, it refers to it's an expletive that you learn something new every day doing research for stuff. So anyway, if you haven't seen it, I would highly recommend you go check it out. It's kind of a cool take on some old timey, the way that they did things back then, which is kind of fun. So. Now, the big thing that I wanted to talk about today, and we're going to kind of hit it quick, is sleep. Now, what I think is important is this is an article. I didn't read the article. I did what most of us do, which is I just read the headline. But this is something that I've been thinking about a lot recently, and it's ironic because I didn't get very much sleep last night. So I'm in the throes of the negative side of this conversation right now. But this whole thing actually got kicked off by an interview. And let's see if I can find it. I should have done this before. JRE Experience Matthew Walker. It's a guy named Matthew Walker who was on the Joe Rogan Experience 6 months ago, whenever it was. This guy right here. Blew my mind about how important sleep is. Blew my mind. This guy, he studies sleep, essentially. And everything that he had to say was revolutionary. It was crazy. And I don't know, this might take a while to load, so that's fine. But then he also did probably because I'm trying to load a YouTube video. Anyway, he also did a podcast with Peter Attia, who's another one of my... I discovered him because of Joe Rogan, but I love him because of himself. Peter Attia, MD. Not peterattia.com, sorry. I apologize, Peter, if you see this. I know I'm going to the wrong place. MD. The problem is when I try and live stream and do all this stuff, it takes up a lot of resources, so my computer's on a delay too. Peter Attia, this guy right here. Fascinating. Most of what he has to say goes right over my head, as you would probably imagine. But he is super, super intelligent, super capable. And he was on Joe Rogan's podcast, and that was an episode of Joe Rogan that I, to this day, just love. I just thought it was one of the most amazing one of the most amazing episodes, just because he's so effortlessly intelligent. And I would sign up for his email list, by the way. Just effortlessly intelligent, just knows so much about so many things. But he approaches knowing things from a scientific standpoint, from a medical standpoint. So it's not just, oh, I know how that works. It's I know down to the molecule what's actually happening there. So there are moments sometimes, I'm going to talk about this other podcast that he did with Matthew. There are moments where he and Matthew talk for 10 minutes and use words that I've never heard before. Because they're talking about very specific molecules and specific genes and stuff. But anyway, he did a podcast with a guy with the same guy with Michael Harris, and it's in four parts. Sorry, 3 parts. Sorry, 3. You can see it here. 1, 2, and 3. And oh my goodness, some of the stuff that they talk about in there blows my mind. I think the biggest thing is like how fast a lack of sleep will affect every part of your cognitive and physical function. I think it's in here, sleep disruption. But if you have any kind of sleep disruption, you sleep less than 6 hours, like the effects are immediate and they're negative. There are no positive effects to having to little sleep. And anyway, you need to go and listen to that because he does a really good job of taking you through all the pieces and talking through the science, which I think is amazing. And so I would definitely go. You need to listen to all 3 of these. It's significant. I think it's like 5 hours in total, but it's 5 hours that will completely change your life. I mean, one of the biggest things was me understanding. Again, the irony is I drink coffee in the morning. Coffee doesn't actually give you energy. Now I don't understand the science, so I'm not going to try and explain it. But go listen, and you'll get some. It's going to blow your mind how important sleep is, which I think is awesome. Anyway, so it goes back to that article. You're not getting enough sleep, and it's killing you. Exactly, it absolutely is. And this is probably, yeah. Here we go. Matthew Walker's in the article. I didn't even know that when I went into this. But the reason why I wanted to bring this up is not because of that. I think you should go listen to that anyway. But it's because of that moment. There's a moment in that Elizabeth Holmes Theranos documentary where they mention and they talk specifically about how she only got 4 hours of sleep a night and she prided herself on that. And my immediate thought, and I've actually tweeted both Peter Attia and Matthew Walker, have not got a response yet, but why would I? Who am I? But I had this interesting theory that the reason why she kept pushing and the reason why she's under so much pressure right now is because she wasn't sleeping enough. Like I think that might have a huge, like a lot to do with the not being able to, cognitively understand what's happening around you and like keep yourself from going crazy in that sense. Like keep yourself from pushing too hard for things that you really shouldn't be pushing for, because they're not really even possible. You know what I mean? So it was interesting to me, and I think the big takeaway there is you can't shortchange on sleep. You can't think, oh, I got to power through this. Like it's completely changed the way that I work. Because now if I get to the end of the day and I got more stuff that I need to do, it has to get pushed to the next day. Because anything that a client might have, with some exceptions, obviously, but anything that a client might have is not so important that it's worth what's going to happen to me the next day. And I had kind of understood that from an anecdotal perspective earlier, where there were days where I would pull all-nighters and I was just a grump the next day. Like I just hated life. It makes sense, right? But I was never really an all-nighter person, and so it wasn't such a huge deal. Yeah. So interestingly enough, I think the sleep aspect, it's funny because the irony there is that I have some of the nights when I've like made the biggest breakthroughs in my own like personal understanding, technical understanding of things have been nights that I didn't get very good sleep. And so it's just kind of interesting the way that all plays out, the way that all rolls out in that way. So Anyway, so that's sleep. I think is very important. I think you should definitely check that out. Check out the Peter Attia Drive. His podcast is really good. Sometimes it's a bit over your head. It's always over my head, but sometimes the people that he gets on there are just amazing. And anytime he's on Joe Rogan, he's really good. So the next thing that I wanted to talk about is I saw this article about this is Elon Musk again. This article I actually did read. But it's about robo-taxis. And I think the crazy thing about this is it's not just robo-taxis. It's the fact that, look down here. Where is it? There's a line in here. Here. Spelt out in a not so distant future, as in like next year, where Tesla owners could put their cars to work and earn money when not using their cars. No humans needed. All Tesla cars are made today with full self-driving capabilities ready to go once government regulations catch up. I actually saw another tweet yesterday which said that it's 2019 and the 2012 Tesla Model S is still the best car on the market. Like, you still can't really compete with it, which I think is amazing. That's just something that they were able to do. It just blows my mind that was something that was so amazing. But if you think about this, like, you have a car, so they have this thing called Turo, which is where you can rent your car out when you're not using it. But this is like your car can rent itself out when you're not using it. It reminds me of back in, a while ago, when Forza 5 came out on Xbox. They had this thing where your bot, like they created a universe. I forget what it's called in gaming terms, but they'd created this centralized sort of universe where people were racing against each other, but your car, your avatar, would drive when you weren't actually playing, and it could gain points for you when you weren't actually playing. And what it would do is it used machine learning and AI to understand the way that you drive, and then apply some of those quirks and techniques when in the races with other people. So your car became a bot in someone else's race. And I had this happen a couple of times. A friend of mine, Corey Thomas, we would race against each other all the time. And there were lots of times when I couldn't tell if it was him or if it was his bot. So I'd ask him afterwards, was that you or was that your bot? He was like, it was my bot. And it was crazy, some of the things that it does. Like, it actually drives the way that you would, which I think is kind of cool. So anyway, the robo taxis are coming pretty soon, and that's the kind of it's interesting because that kind of thing is, as I've said before, it's the difference between somebody in that world, in the technological invention world that we like, and someone that we don't like. Is he was able to make it happen, right? He's pushing past boundaries. I think honestly, one of the biggest differences, one of the biggest functional differences between the two is actually that that Elon Musk paid a little bit more attention coming up the ranks. Like, I think he actually studied more. He did more homework. We're rewatching True Detective. We're on season 2. There's this line where Vince Vaughn's character says, "These young people these days, they have no respect. Everybody wants to be top dog right away." Something like that. And that rung true to me, because I think it's true. I know that's something that I struggle with. There's a huge reason why I'm technically unemployable, clinically unemployable. It's because I don't ever want to be under somebody else's thumb. I want to be in charge of everything that I'm doing. And I think that there's a lot of that in this millennial, even elder millennial generation of people that are getting into entrepreneurship and business, is that because we have that inability to be managed, because we're not good underlings, so to speak, we think we're only good at number one. We don't have the ability to. We don't have a predilection to push through and really study. Like, there's a reason why we quit college. And I say quit college in colloquial terms. We didn't all quit college, but there's a reason why that's sort of something that is common amongst us, is because we're not the types of people that are going to do our homework, that are going to do. Maybe I shouldn't say quit college. Maybe that's why we didn't do well in school, is because we We weren't trying to do well. We had other things we wanted to do, and that I think is the difference. People who can marry that entrepreneurial drive and like the I don't care what anybody else has to say attitude with a real technical understanding of what they're doing, like a true technical understanding based on research and study and deep dive understanding. I think that's where the success comes. It's people who really get what they're doing and aren't trying to live in like the fantasy world of creating something in their head and selling that before they have something that they're actually selling, kind of thing. So it's just a fine line you have to walk. And I suspect that this is going to be a broken record for me because now I shouldn't say now everybody's sort of jumping on the Elizabeth Holmes bandwagon. I saw an article last night where everybody's talking about her. Who was talking about that. And so I thought, oh, I'm done talking about Elizabeth Holmes. And then I realized this morning that I have so much more to say, which is insane. Anyway, tomorrow, what I want to talk about, I want to show you guys my my setup. There's something that's really important to me that when it comes to project management and task management that I could never. I don't know why I've been sitting on this for so long, but it's something that I never could figure out. There's no task management, project management tools out there that works the way that I think people's minds work, which is tell me what I need to do next. Like, let me put it this way. Entrepreneurs, freelancers like myself, we are either really good at high-level organization and management of projects, or we're really good at doing things, but we're never good at both at the same time. So, and most of the time we're really good at both, but we have to be, it's like a separate hat we have to put on, where we can get really good at like, let me sit down and grind. And then we can be really good at like, okay, how do I organize this into tasks that are actually going to make sense? But never both. And I think the problem is that because that's a failing, a disadvantage that we have, we look for project managers, either people that are going to fill that gap or some kind of a tool that's going to help us with one or the other. And most tools help us with one or the other and not both. And one of the biggest things that I had a really hard time with was the fact that there wasn't a task manager that I could tell what my priorities were in advance and then tell it what needed to happen, and then it would spit back what I should do next. In other words, I set it up with this client is more important than this client, this person is more important than that, and these projects for these clients are more important than others, right? These are the overrides, essentially. But if I say this is urgent, then I want it needs to be something that happens next. I need to tell the system that, and then I need to load in my tasks as they come in, and then I need the system to tell me what to do next. Because otherwise, I'm going to do whatever's the most recent thing that came in is what I'm going to do, or whatever tickles my fancy the most, right? But I needed something to tell me that, and I could never find it until I looked in a place that I never looked before. So we'll talk about that tomorrow. I'm really excited about showing that off because it's fun and cool, and yeah. So hopefully I'll see y'all tomorrow. Now, because this stream is delayed, I gotta wait for a second before I actually kill it. So we're just gonna sit here and watch, and then we'll kill the stream. So you guys can leave. It's done. Bye.